Hi, everybody. You're watching another episode of the CloudDesk Employee Monitoring Podcast. My name is Bridget from M2SOS Technology. So, before I introduce today's guest, just a little reminder about the weekly podcast. Last week, we discussed quiet firing with my colleague Stanley. So, just in case you missed that episode, we're going to attach the link in the description below so you can get tuned up and watch that episode as well. So, on today's episode, I have a very special guest with me today. I have Ikram, who's our business automation specialist here at CloudAppa. Ikram, thanks for joining me today.
Hello, Bridget. Thank you for having me here. I'm glad to be a part of this podcast.
Awesome. So, Ikram, before we just jump into the podcast and start discussing CloudDesk, do you mind just telling our viewers about yourself, how long you've been at M2SIS, and what it is that you actually do at CloudDesk?
Yeah, sure. I've been working at M2SIS for the past 2 years, and I've been working here as a business automation engineer. Mostly, I've been dealing with managing the product. So you can say that I'm working as the product manager of CloudDesk. And
Okay.
being the product manager, uh, I have to deal with a lot of things like what are the features in the
Mm-hmm.
product that are going to be um, getting customer feedback, getting their feedback
Okay.
incorporated into the product, and see how much user friendly it can be. Then also being the
Mm-hmm.
project coordinator, like uh, communicating those feedback with the developers so that they can improve and implement those feedback according to the customer needs. And
Mm-hmm.
lastly, like monitoring the marketing content, uh, communicating with the marketing team about the requirements there, and then also overlooking the sales and whether the sales team is reaching out to the leads and communicating with them properly so that those leads are being brought in and guided into the application and onboarded into the application properly. So all those sort of
Okay.
things are being managed by me here at CloudDesk.
Awesome. It
Been a,
sounds like such a
been a great experience
satisfying
actually.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds quite fun and well-rounded. So, Ikram, I'm just curious, can you tell us a bit about CloudDesk and how you handle customer queries?
Yeah, sure. So, as you know, CloudDesk is an employee monitoring and remote team management app that allows employees to provide a 360-degree view of their employees' productivity. It provides real-time visibility into the distributed workforce, activities to increase productivity, improves compliance, and it also optimizes employee performance as well. On the other hand, employees using the app have a transparent view of their performance, which allows them to understand where they are lacking and where they need to make an effort to improve themselves. It actually empowers them to work from anywhere. And usually for CloudDesk, if you talk about customer queries about the product are very minimal, as most of the information is already available on our website as well as our brochure. Also, when they sign up for the app, the onboarding process as well as how the app works is very well guided via our CloudDesk application walkthrough. And the pop-up text that appear once you get into the application. So those walkthrough automated emails which contain important videos on how to sign up, download the application, onboard the employees, and so on. Usually, when there are queries, it's mostly when the customer reaches out to us in the cloud through the CloudDesk Talk portal. As you know, that we have Talk integrated with our application. So they reach us through the Talk portal. using the contact forms that are available in our website of CloudDesk. So we have 24/7 customer support in the Talk portal, and customers can reach out to us anytime there if they have any sort of queries or require customer support. Also, when they sign up or reach out to us using the contact form in our website, we have dedicated people, we have dedicated teams who reach out to those leads directly to offer them support and any sort of information they require about the product.
Okay. It's really amazing just hearing you talk about CloudDesk. It's really amazing how this platform gives managers like an insight into their employee productivity. And it's also quite interesting how managers can use the same data to have like a conversation with employees, which will also boost their morale, give them kind of motivation and get them excited to do their jobs as well. And also having just that 24/7 customer support really helps customers get instant information into their queries. So Ikram, I actually recently signed up for Cloudus just to see how your onboarding process is. And I must say, I'm really quite impressed. It was a very user friendly journey. And I think most companies are now shifting towards the hybrid working and tracking employee productivity. So, what do you think about the hybrid work culture?
Yeah. So if you ask me like what I think that hybrid work culture is not something that you choose whether to believe in or not. Like it's there, right? It's
Mm,
established. It was established as the way of working, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic in the year 2020 to 2021, mostly. The real question here should be whether or not your business can sustain itself by adapting to it, right? If yes, then the next question should be, are you and your workforce smart enough to adapt to it? So the hybrid work culture does not only provide employers and employees to work from anywhere, but it also enables them to be more economical, right? If we look back at 2020, we can refer to numerous news and articles that state that hybrid work reduced carbon emissions, electricity consumption, fuel consumption, boosted monthly savings, and at the same time increased employee productivity. Like you will be amazed if I share the stats with you here. Like um, all the all these things that I just said now, like these are not something that were made up or boosted to um, give someone a wrong idea about something. So if I give you the details here, like there was an article that was published by the IMF on June 30 in 2020. It states that emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere decreased by 4.6% in 2020. And as you know, like 27% of carbon emissions in our atmosphere are caused by transportation, which,
mm,
as you, if you remember, was very limited during COVID, right? People didn't get out of
mm,
their house unless they absolutely needed to. So this contributed to a 4.6% decrease in carbon emission. Can you imagine that? Like every year it's just
mm,
increasing, and then suddenly in the year of COVID, it decreased. And there are also similar reports from the United States Environmental Protection Agency. And then, according to the report from the European member states that was shared on the Eurostat website, this showed that there was an 11% decrease in fuel consumption during the year 2020, followed by a 5% decrease in the year 2021. So it's
okay,
very natural, because if you don't need to go out, if you don't need transportation, the fuel consumption will be less, and that is very natural. So there you go,
mm,
reduced transportation resulting in the reduced necessity for fuel, and it's all related. Then the National Bureau of Economic Research, they published in one of their articles that electricity consumption in the commercial areas in the United States, Canada, and European countries reduced by 12 to 14% during the time of the pandemic due to the reduced necessity of employees having to go to their offices for work. So,
Mm.
since employees mostly work from home, they didn't need to go to the office, and as such, electricity consumption was also very limited. Then
Yeah.
there was a survey that was performed by Upwork during March to August on 1,000 employees who commute to work in the United States, showed that they saved 50 minutes each day on average by working remotely during COVID. This number is significantly higher for densely populated countries like Japan, China, India, Bangladesh. The survey also showed that employees who travel to work by car saved on average over 2,000 each during this time. So this is not a small amount of money, right? And hybrid work culture boosts employee productivity. If you are familiar with Ergotron, so a survey showed by Ergotron states that 40% of employees worked longer hours when they are at home. Data from the National Bureau of Economic Research shows that the extra time spent at work averages to 48 minutes.
Mm.
75% of those survey respondents said that hybrid work and culture improved their work life balance as well. Then Nitro Foundation also conducted a similar research that showed that the number of moderately stressed employees came down from 33% to 29%, and the number of severely stressed employees came down from 17% to 15% because of hybrid work culture. So all these data, it's there right in front of you, and all these data and research, it clearly indicates that hybrid work culture is not only economical but also a win-win for both the employers and the employees. Given the current
Mm.
situation with the never-ending surge of fuel prices, power crisis that we are in globally right now, I think I it's my personal opinion, but I strongly believe that businesses that can operate remotely should again think about enforcing remote work. This is a good time to think about it. The number of employee monitoring tools has increased significantly since the pandemic. Now it has become
Mm.
easier for employers to track their remote workers with the help of those monitoring tools. All they need is decide which is the best fit for their business.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I absolutely agree with you there. And you did give some statistics that were quite convincing. And also showed how obviously working from home does have like a huge impact on the carbon emissions and the good that it does for the environment. So I have seen in the news recently, I think this is like a worldwide situation where countries have fuel shortages, where countries are having electricity shortages, and surely promoting like a hybrid work environment might be a way to counter at all of those issues. So I'm just wondering now, how do you think the employees themselves feel about working from home? How do you think employees feel about working in that hybrid work model?
Mm, The hybrid work model, I would say it both has its benefits and drawbacks, like most other things. So,
Mm-hmm.
while some employees do feel that the hybrid work model allows them to save more, be more productive at work, and provide more time to their families and friends, on the other hand, some employees do feel quite the opposite. According to some of them, the hybrid work model allowed their employers or managers to think that their employees are available at all times. And as such, they have unreal expectations towards their employees when it comes to availability. Employees or managers seek their employees and assign them tasks outside of their regular hours. This was seen in many companies that have a lot of work pressure. As a result, those employees are overworked and they have to put in long hours to complete those tasks and be available for their employers. They also face challenges when they require leaves, as some managers tend to think that leaves are only required when the employees are working from their office. But you know that this is not right. So, on the other hand, like employee monitoring tools such as CloudDesk solves this specific problem by giving both the employers and the employees a clear view of how many hours they are putting in at work. It shows both those parties clear calculations on how many hours are due by the employee, how many hours they have worked overtime, and all of this is calculated from their contracted work hours. So
Mm,
at the end of the day, at the end of the month, at the end of the week, employers and employee they get a summary of the daily work hours along with all the overall insights of the work activity for the day. And this is sent to the employers when the employee is done with his or her shift every day. Hence, it all comes down to how much flexibility and comfort the employers are willing to offer their employees, because CloudDesk provides both parties with statistical and clear data on how much effort that employee is putting in for the company. In case the employee is lacking, it shows them where they need to put in more effort. If the employees are not
mm,
giving their 100% at work, employers know that instantly, and they have adequate data and stats to show as evidence if at some point they need to decide that they need to terminate the employment of that employee.
mm. Yes, definitely. And one thing that you mentioned, Ikram, was maintaining that work-life balance. So you mentioned that obviously in some companies, incidences did come up where managers would think that because the employee is working from home, this means that the person is available to work for the company 24/7. And nobody really likes to work outside their work hours. So I think employee monitoring software like Clouders would really help to kind of nip this problem in the bud and make sure that this is avoided. So, how does now CloudDesk help managers to make data driven decisions? Like, how does it really work? If I'm considering getting CloudDesk, how does the software work and how easy it is for me to implement it in my business?
Okay. So to answer those questions, I'm going to show you a quick demo. So let me share my
Okay.
screen here. So are you able to see my screen?
Yes, it is clearly visible.
Okay. So this is the Cloud Desk application, and this is the dashboard, as you can see, right? So here, if you look at here, these statistics are, self-explanatory. I don't have to go them one by one to make you understand what they do. But here, if you look here, you can see total counts of your employees, the number of applications they use today, how many times they fail face verification this month, the number of employees working today, average productive hours, average break hours, employees working overtime, employees leaving early, then the current
Mm,
status of the employees, like how many are working now, how many are on break, how many are in meeting. Then here you can see their productivity status, right? So starting from uh, like around 8:30 or maybe 9 a.m., if a manager just sits down and look at this chart, he can see that, okay, how when the employees were most efficient throughout the day, right? So this chart
mm,
shows you that. Then if there are employees working for you at multiple locations around the world, then this chart gives you that visibility on where your employees are logging in from, right? Then top 10 visited sites, session counts, who failed the face verification along with those dates and times, then recent punches, who punched in and out, and uh, employee distribution by supervisor. So everything, every little detail that you require is shown here, right? So this is the dashboard of CloudDesk, and as you just saw, it gives you a more detailed insights to managers and employees alike as to what uh, KPIs they are meeting, what they are not, right? And now, if I go to the employee list here, you'll be able to see all the details on these employees. And like here, what you're seeing is the super admin view, right? So super admins or HR managers, they're able to see all the employees because they have to collect data and they have to make changes. But here, the app is configured in such a way that when team managers sign in into the application, they're only able to see information about their employees only. They won't be able to see other people's data, other people's record, and so on, right? So this, as you can see, the employee list, it gives you a superficial information on who their manager is, which department they're in, their contact number, and so on, right? So if I just go into one of these records here, uh, so what the managers see is the current status of this employee, whether this employee is working or not, their contact number, who their supervisor is, uh, overall average activity stats overall, like how many hours he productively works on average, how many hours he spends on meetings, on break, how much time he spends idle, and then the distribution of that, like the ratio, how many, the work ratio, the meeting ratio, break ratio, idle ratio, all of that, right? Then managers also see here the days when this employee was less productive, and the details of those sessions can be seen as well here. So if a manager just clicks on one of those details, this window pops up showing the details for that specific day. And from this detail, the manager can quickly assess on why that employee was not productive like he was supposed to be. Like here, as you can see, the lost 2.5 hours. He was supposed to work 8 hours, but he worked for 5.5 hours. So all these details are shown up here. And if a manager wants to investigate further, uh, he gets more detailed breakdown on what happened actually that day, how many breaks he took, how many meetings he went to, how many times he was found idle, how many times his face verification failed, how many apps that person used, everything. It gives details on the workstation information, uh, the ratio of his productivity that day, also shows the screenshots. So this is another important aspect of this application. So based on these screenshots, the manager is quickly able to assess what this employee did that day, and whether or not he did something that he was not supposed to do, right? They can assess from here right away what things that they worked on and everything. Then here it shows the usages of the top 5 applications by this employee. As you can see, email, how much and which applications were used and how many minutes were spent on using it. everything is shown. Then from which location this employee punched in and punched out, that's also shown here. Now, if the manager wants to get, suppose suppose this does not work out, and the manager needs to know, get into further details that okay, so he failed face verification, so when did he actually fail it, right? So here they can go into here and see detailed breakdown, like when this employee punched in, when the first face verification popped up, whether it was so here, as you can see, the description, it says random photo verify timeout and verification failed. So from this data, the manager can make this assumption, or it's a clear indication that on around 8:30 p.m. this employee was not available in front of his workstation, like almost after 30 minutes after he punched in. So then it raises the question on where he was, and then he got back to his desk on 8:32, and then again 8:55 there was another phase verification which was successful. All these were successful, and then again around 12:38 a.m. there was another phase verification which failed, right? And the employee was not found in front of his workstation, and then he came back again around 3:07 a.m. here, and then everything was normal after that. So Bridget, as you just saw here, like these data that is shown, it's an indication of these type of data, definitely begs the managers to ask, okay, so where were you all this time? You weren't there, you were gone for 3 hours. So what did you actually do at that time? If the employee was supposed to be in front of the workstation and he wasn't there, then these are the indicators that enable the managers to ask employees those questions, right?
Yeah.
Then if they want to go into further details, they can check out their work insight, right? So
Yeah.
whether or not they were at which applications they were working on, application name, the active window title, the application type, uh, there's that employee's session status at that time, and like if they go into one of those details, they can clearly see that okay, for example, they get into this detail where they use this application that he wasn't supposed to, for example. So they can see when this employee started using this application, when the employee finished using this application, how many, what's the duration of usage, and so on. So all those details are there clearly right in front of the employer.
Yeah.
So this is how employers can actually dig down into details if they find any lackings from their employees. They can also see
Mm.
when these employees were idle. Like for this shift, this employee was idle 5 times throughout the day, and it gives all those data on when he was idle and how many minutes he was found idle throughout the day.
Mm.
So this also begs the question that okay, why were you found idle so many times and for so long? So
Mm.
these are the small details, and as we also have another option called blacklisted apps. So what the managers can do is they can select which blacklisted apps which apps should be blacklisted, like which apps they're not supposed to use when they're working. There are lots of apps like this, like some workplaces, they restrict the use of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. during the office hours, right? So managers just need to enlist those applications here in CloudDesk, and whenever the employee starts using that application, uh, the managers get the notification that hey, that employee of yours is using an application that he's not supposed to. So then it gives them the details. Let me quickly show you how those details are shown to the employers. Right. So as I was saying, like the managers get notified when an employee uses a blacklisted app, and let me quickly show you on how the notification looks like. So as you can see, the manager receives an email from CloudDesk, and here the subject is your employees using a blacklisted app, and then hello manager, your this employee has been accessing a blacklisted app website or application for the last 4 minutes. Please check the work insight for more details. Then it goes like the date, and then the name, the blacklisted app name, and the duration, and how many blacklisted apps was used by this employee. So those details are shown.
Mm,
Apart from these, the managers also get other details, like when the employee logs in, they get a notification in their email, the login time, the details on from where the employee logged in. They get a notification on if the employee has been idle for longer than an hour. The manager then, in that case, gets a notification like this, that this employee has been idle for more than an hour, and the details of that. So 1 hour 16 minutes, he has been idle for total 8 sessions. So which means that for 8 instances, the employee has been idle, and then the name of that employee, details of the workstation, and then the total session hours, work time, meeting time, break time. All those breakdowns are given to the manager in just a few seconds via email. And then a work summary is provided to the manager on when that employee logs out, right? Then in that case, hello, this employee has just logged out. Please see the session details below. Name of the employee, workstation details, the login time, the logout time, the total hours this employee worked, how many applications were used, which was the most used application, and the duration of that application's usage, meeting time, a number of times that employee went for meeting, idle time, number of times that employee was found idle, break time, number of times that employee was on break, and the most used applications here are shown in this listed form, as well as their usage duration, right? And
mm,
if an employee, suppose he left earlier than he or she was supposed to, in that case, the managers get a notification like this, that this employee has not completed allocated work hours, and the number of hours he left, the time duration he left early, right? He, for instance, for this employee's case, he left about 1 hour 50 minutes earlier than he was supposed to, and like his login time, logout time, total session, the productive time, his productive time, and then meeting time, idle break. All those breakdowns are again provided here. So this is how, Bridget, the employees are notified, and this is how managers can dig into those details on
mm,
how much productive their employees are, and actually at the same time, employees can see, okay, so for example, this employee, suppose here, needs to leave early someday, right? He might have some urgent work or something. So if you look at the stats here, he can make this judgment call that, okay, so I have 65 hours of overtime, and then there was only these instance when I lost 14 hours. So I have some overtime. Since I have some overtime left, today, if my manager permits, I can leave early, and then this employee can make that call from these stats. And if someday the manager said that you are leaving early these days and things like that, he can show these stats to the manager, like, hey, I have extra hours in my hand, right? So it's okay
mm,
for me if I leave early, and I'm
mm,
completing my work on time, so I don't see the problem here. So this is how the CloudDesk establishes that two-way trust for both the employers and the employees.
Mm. Yeah, it's quite interesting just to see how just by looking at the dashboard, the manager is able to get information into everything that's happening with his workforce. And even if they don't actually access the application, because CloudDesk has those real-time notifications, the manager is still able to get the work summary and all of that information relating to their employees. So just
Yeah.
moving back to kind of promoting that healthy hybrid work environment. So, do you think there's anything else that managers can do to maintain a healthy hybrid work style or work model?
Yes, certainly. There's a lot of things managers can do to maintain that. I believe the most important thing that managers need to do to maintain a healthy hybrid team is to set clear goals and objectives for the team. Um,
Mm,
Managers need to ensure that everyone on the team is on the same page and that there is no room for miscommunication. So communication is the key here. Since employees are working from home, managers need to provide them the flexibility in their working hours, as that will boost their morale. Another important
mm,
thing that managers should not misuse is the availability of their employees just because they're working from home, right? Just because they're working from home doesn't mean or doesn't indicate that they are available to work at all times. They need to ensure proper work life balance for their employees, and they should not have unrealistic expectations of the employees' availability. And lastly, the employees and managers need to fully utilize employee monitoring tools such as CloudDesk and make use of them to interpret data and analytics. This will allow them to keep track of their performance without having to probe in too much.
yes, definitely. So I believe we've actually covered almost all the aspects on how to maintain that healthy hybrid workforce. And thank you so much on giving that live demo and showing everybody how the CloudDesk employee monitoring software works. And I think this is going to be very useful to the managers and the workforce as well, just to help them understand the alternatives that are out there and how they can maintain that healthy hybrid working situation. So that's all for today. Thank you, everybody, for watching our podcast. Thank you, Ikram, for giving us the time. And until the next one, thank you, everybody. Take care and have a great day.
Thank you too, Bridget. Thank you for your time. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
All right. Cheers. Bye.